Assalamu alaikum, grade 10s. We're carrying on with deductions. So if you're looking in your FET notes, you're going to click on lesson 53 now, right? Okay, we're in salaries and wages, and we're doing deductions for medical aid funds, UIF and pension funds. It's quite simple and easy to read, especially from these notes. Okay, so the first one we're doing is medical aid. Medical aid fund contributions by employees. The medical aid fund serves the purpose to provide medical assistance to the employee and his dependents for medical expenses. The employee contributions is calculated according to the number of dependents and it's payable to the medical aid fund, and most employers also contribute towards this fund. So what happens is when you are employed by an employee, you have a medical aid fund, so you're contributing an amount, a percentage of your salary towards having a medical aid fund. So if you do happen to go to hospital, then you have medical aid covers your expenses. Okay, so who do we pay to? We pay to a medical aid fund. So when you work for a company, you need to remember the first and most important thing, that medical aid funds are not compulsory deductions. Okay, so it means that if your company offers it, you're allowed to take it out. It's not compulsory and a legal thing that you need to do, right? So let's look at the example. This employee calculate the medical aid fund deductions for the following employees. A. Adams, he's earning 8,500 rand, and how much is he contributing? 7.5% of his gross salary, monthly medical aid contribution. So what we're doing is, this is a monthly salary. We're taking our monthly salary, 8,500 rand, we're multiplying it by 7.5%, and you're getting 637.50. Okay, so it's very simple to calculate. All you're doing is working it out as a percentage of your 8,500 rand. So what does it actually mean? Every month he's going to get 8,500 rand gross salary, but before he gets the money, this amount is going to be deducted from there and paid over to the medical aid fund, right? Okay, so now it's requested in the activity that you calculate the medical aid fund deductions for the following employees. Contributions are calculated as follows. So this is a different method of working out a medical aid contribution. If they are single, they pay 300 rands per month. If they're married, they pay 500 rands per month, and an additional contribution of 50 rand per dependent, which means your children normally, right? So the first guy, Mr. B, he has 94,000 rand. He's married with no other dependents. Okay, so every month he's earning 94,000 rand. He's married, but he's got no dependents. So how much would he pay? Here's the one for the married persons, 500 rand, and no dependents, so he would pay 500 rand. Okay, now look at S. Smith. He's got 25,000 rand. He's married with 2 kids. So how much is he going to pay? 500 rand, plus for 2 children he needs to pay 50 rand per child. So that's another 100 rand. So 500 plus the 100 makes it 600 rand. Okay, so there's 2 different ways of calculating. This one is a percentage on his salary, and these guys are paying, their company says they must pay according to that, right? So it's not compulsory, and we just have to know how to work it out. So when you're working it out, they will give it to you in the question how to do it. All you need to know that it's a contribution, it's a deduction that comes off your salary, and how to work it out, right? Now UIF, this one is very important. UIF is compulsory deduction. That's very important to understand. Every person who earns a salary is required to pay a percentage of income to the UIF. It's compulsory, right? When a person cannot work as a result of illness or retrenchment, he receives a monthly benefit from the UIF. So if you're ill and you go to UIF, or if you lose your job, you're allowed to go to them, and they give you a benefit until you find a job or until you get better. They give you a monthly payment of your salary that you receive from them. So it's an insurance policy. Okay, so the pension, the percentage contribution at this moment is 1% of your gross salary, 1% per annum. So every year you have to pay 1% of your gross salary, right? Now what they're saying here is, this is the compulsory amount, and it's payable to SARS. Okay, and you have to pay a percentage every month, and also this 1% is compulsory, and it's determined by the Minister of Finance and by SARS, and at the moment in our country it's at 1%. Okay, so you have to know that UIF is calculated at 1%, and what happens is the employer also contributes 1% of the gross salary towards the fund. So the employee pays 1% and the employer pays 1%, and this is a compulsory contribution by employees. So let's look at an example. It's very simple. Calculate the UIF at 1% of the gross salary on the following salary scales. So he is earning 8,500 Rand. We're still with Adams. He has to contribute 1% of his UIF. If they didn't tell you 1%, you need to know that it's 1%. It's compulsory, right? 1%. So his monthly amount. So this is the annual amount. So for 8,500 Rand multiplied by 1% means 85 Rand for the entire year he needs to pay. But we have to deduct it monthly from his salary. So 7,08 per month is what is going to get deducted from his salary every month. Okay, so that's a UIF contribution. So he has to pay an amount towards his medical aid, then he has to pay an amount towards his UIF, and it all comes off his gross salary, right? Now it's requested that you calculate UIF at 1% of the gross salary on the following salaries. Mr. B is earning 9,400 Rand and he's earning 1%, and we need to calculate the monthly. So he's got 9,400 times 1% is 94 Rand for the year. We're dividing it by 12. So we're going to get 7,83 that he has to pay every month. So that will come out of there. Then Mr. Smith is 9,050. Can you see that the percentage stays the same? 1% for the year. We're dividing that by 12 and you're getting 7,54. So Mr. Smith will pay 7,54. It's 1% based on the salary that they earn for the annum. 1% for the annum, and then you're dividing it by 12. Okay, so remember, what's very important to remember, that it's compulsory. Now we're doing pension fund. Okay, again, pension fund is like medical aid. It is not compulsory and it's calculated on the same basis, only there's no dependence. What is a pension fund contribution by employees? Employees mostly contribute to a pension fund so that they can receive a monthly income when they retire. A percentage of the gross salary is calculated and deducted from their salaries. It's payable to a pension fund, and most employers contribute towards this fund. So what happens is, you have an employee like Mr. Adam. He's earning 8,500 Rand and they offer him a pension fund contribution. It's not compulsory, but his company is offering how much he has to pay. 7.5% of his gross salary. Remember, we did that calculation. It's just coincidence that it's the same as medical aid, the percentage. It's not necessarily the same. So you're going to take the 7.5%, you're working it out on 8,500, and now this amount is his monthly pension fund contribution. Remember, there's a difference with the UIF, the medical aid, and the pension fund is a monthly percentage on your salary. So it's very simple. They give it to you in the question. Here's his gross salary. He has to pay this percentage. Calculate how much is going to be deducted. So if you imagine you getting 8,500 Rand for the month as your gross salary, first this deduction is going to come off there. Your medical aid deduction is going to come off there. And your UIF is going to come off there. Then we're working towards how much we're going to get into our bank accounts, right? So the activity is saying, calculate the pension fund deductions for the following employees, right? So what do we have? Mr. B is earning 94,000 Rand per month, right? He's earning 5% of, he has to deduct 5% of his gross salary. So per month he earns 94,000. 94,000 multiplied by 5% is 4,700 Rand. How much would he contribute every month? He's going to contribute, because his salary is so high, 4,700 Rands per month. Now S. Smith, remember there, that PA there, that's there to trick you. 120,000 Rand. What does PA mean? Per annum. So we have to divide it by 12 first. So he only has a salary of 10,000 Rand per month. Then we're going to multiply it by the 8.5%. So how much is he going to contribute towards his pension fund? 850 Rand, not 8.5 of this amount. That will be the whole year's contribution. We're working it out for his monthly. So every month, 850 Rand will get deducted. Okay. Before we read through that, okay, so then I just want you to look at the answers to the activities are there so you can revise it. Okay, so you remember we did that 500 Rand was the one dependent, one was married, one had two dependents. Then we calculated the UIF percentages, so you can do that on your own. Okay, and then I just want you to take a note of this one, 94,000 Rand. This answer is incorrect or the percentage is incorrect, so don't use it to study. The answer is 4,700 here. You're just taking 5% of that. And this is the 120 where you've divided it by 12 and you're multiplying it by 8.5%. Okay. Okay, and also here they've made an error here. So if you want to get the correct answers, I did it earlier in the video. You're going to take 9,400. Multiplying by 1% is going to give you your amount per annum. Then you're dividing it by 12. I think they've divided by 10. It's incorrect there. Okay. So just be careful if you are using these answers here. Right. So let's just read through this last section here. It says trade union or staff association. The trade unions, employees contribute monthly to their respective unions and employers do not contribute towards this fund. So it's not compulsory also. So the trade union, those are the people that help them, when they have a strike or they have a labor problem, then they go to their trade union. So sometimes they contribute every month. It'll be given to you in the question. And then you also, most of the time, these employers don't contribute towards these funds. Pension funds and UIF and medical aids and employers do contribute a percentage, right? Staff association means sometimes employees contribute to buy tea and coffee and organize functions for employees, and the employers do not contribute. So then they tell you every month pay 50 Rand and then once a month we're going to have a party and something like that. So that's a staff association contribution. It'll come off your gross salary. These are all voluntary and it's according to the company that you work on, right? So they have a very nice summary here that you need to look at. And remember, those of you that are able to print out the notes, you can print it out and stick it in your book because they're lovely notes, these to summarize, okay? So monthly deductions from salaries, from gross salary. So you have a gross salary. Remember, he had 8,500 Rand gross salary. Then you've got compulsory deductions. So if you can try to write this note down in your book. And then for Mr. Adams, write down what was his compulsory deductions and his PAYE and all those voluntary deductions. So you'll get a picture in your mind and understand what's happening, right? Compulsory deductions are UIF and PAYE. This is your tax. It's compulsory. You have to pay it. We did it in the other video. And this is UIF. You have to pay it and it's always 1%. Okay. Then you have voluntary. So your company allows you to choose pension fund or medical aid and trade unions. Sometimes the companies do say it's compulsory, but what you need to understand is that the government does not force you to do it. You can contribute to these funds if you would like to. These are compulsory. So all these deductions get minused from your gross salary, and then that's how we get to our net salary, and that's the amount that comes into our bank account. So what happens is you have a gross salary of this guy, example 8.5. He'll pay his UIF, he'll pay his PAYE, he'll pay his pension fund, medical aid. The company works it out, deducts everything from there. That's why we call all those deductions. And then when you've minused it, then you get your net pay. Say for instance, his gross salary was 8 and all his deductions comes to 2,500 Rand or 2,000 Rand, then 6,000 Rand will come into his bank account. Okay.